Before the passing of the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, most African Americans were enslaved, having to work long hours on plantation fields or indoors caring for their white slave owners' children in household affairs. The lack of respect and lesser than treatment of African Americans made them vulnerable to false representation in the eyes of white citizens. In 1832, Thomas Dartmouth, known as the father of minstrelsy, created a Jim Crow Act from New York to London, which marked the beginning of minstrels.
Negro minstrels were shows performed by majority white actors in blackface, depicting African Americans in a negative stereotypical light. The shows began in the U.S. in the 1830s, with white performers mocking African American culture, plantation lifestyle, and skin color in a comedic way. The shows mainly targeted white, middle, and upper-class citizens who reside in the city.
Well, why don't you get a job and go to work?
Y'all almost had me a job this morning.
Where?
I went down to the post office and asked that man could he let me have one of them jobs as a letter toter.
No, Cotton, you mean a mail carrier.
And the man said before he could give me a situation, he'd have to put me through a simple self-examination.
No, stupid. You mean a civil service examination.
Well, the man...
It was widely popular because it took what many white citizens were thinking and put it in a visually appealing entertainment form. Its popularity grew by the mid-1840s, with new music, makeup, and costuming contributing to its impact on American society and the entertainment industry at that time.
In the late 1890s, African Americans were hit with shrinking possibilities, and artists and activists desperately sought any place for advancement. They saw the possibility for growth and financial security in minstrel shows. Many African Americans from the South migrated to New York City and formed minstrel groups who advertised their authentic blackness as a selling point to Northern audiences in the United States. Ironically, African Americans had to blacken up like white performers, although they were black. Black minstrel performers felt as though it was their responsibility to counter portrayed stereotypes of African Americans as laughable and naive. This sense of responsibility led them to create a self-presentation on the minstrel stage that balanced racist stereotypes and political commentary. The African American performers were also hyper-aware of their offstage public presentation and carried themselves opposite of the fictional representation showed on stage.
Historical sources like Negro Minstrels by T.S. Denison and Company gives an in-depth look into the production process of Negro minstrels. Burnt cork, cocoa butter, carmine, and wigs were a part of the wardrobe to impersonate African Americans. The makeup was used to enlarge lips to a comical degree and make skin dark to match those of African Americans.
You can prepare the burnt cork yourself by obtaining a quantity of corks, placing them in a metal dish, pouring alcohol over them, and burning them to a crisp. Powder and mix with enough water to make a rather thick paste. This trouble can be avoided by securing the prepared burnt cork, which may be had from any dealer in theatrical supplies, for a trifle. For the look, you'll need carmine. Carmine is a brilliant red powder which is used on the lips of the end man to make them appear larger. Don't worry about staining. Cocoa butter is an indispensable article for removing the burn without using soap or water. First, rub a cake of cocoa butter lightly over the face, ears, and neck. Then apply a broad streak of carmine to the lips, carrying it well beyond the corners of the mouth. Then, take a little of the prepared burnt cork, moisten it with water, and rub it carefully on the face, ears, neck, and hands, being careful to avoid touching the lips.
For the shows, very high collars and comical wigs were worn along with old clothes, ancient hats, and venerable carpet bags and umbrellas, linen dusters, big shoes, and more.
The costume should be neat and tasteful, but the styles may be whatever your fancy dictates. A female wig requires large felts on each side, another at the back. When dancing or performing, use very few gestures and dance with as little exertion as possible. A grotesque double song and dance is easily laughable, especially if one of the performers wears female costume. The dance is merely a series of jumps, kicks, and breaks in time to the music, feats which anyone can easily master.
The show's portrayed blacks as naive and always happy, and this is reflected in the songs they sing. The lyrics are of a lost slave who misses his life back on the plantation where he quote-unquote belongs. Through the growing popularity of the minstrel shows, many of the songs were published as sheet music to give the people the opportunity to sing and play the songs at home. The minstrel performances have middle and end men who perform gags and songs.
The funniest point in many Negro farces is the intense would-be dignity of some of the characters. Now, if the scene is rushed through, all this is lost and the humor is not apparent.
Well, tell me, how would you like to go to work for me?
Yes, ma'am. How much you gonna pay me, I hope?
Well, let's see now. I'll pay you all your work.
No, ma'am. I gotta have some money.
You know, Cotton. That's a 2.
What you call that?
That's a capital A. Then you draw your semicolon and you put your 7 at chin.
What's that?
Man, that's a period. That shows you that that's as far as I'm going with that 7.
Over the years, the performances of black minstrels made it around the world. Other than the United States, European countries such as Germany and Britain also participated in the fictional portrayal of African Americans. Though minstrels are associated mostly with racism and oppression, its popularity also rose with the movement to abolish slavery. By the end of the Civil War, the popularity of minstrelsy died down. Today, Negro minstrels and its negative impact remain a shameful part of history. The impacts of the stereotypes had a lasting impression as they are still apparent till this day. Although the use of blackface has decreased dramatically and it is rarely done today, there are still instances where it is used, such as in China's 2018 New Year's Gala. Instances such as this show that there is still ways to go before the shameful history of minstrels and blackface can remain in the past.